The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples left from there and began a journey through Galilee, but he did not wish anyone to know about it. He was teaching his disciples and telling them, "The Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. And 3 days after his death, the Son of Man will rise." But they did not understand what he was saying, and they were afraid to question him. They came to Capernaum, and once inside the house, he began to ask them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they remained silent. They had been discussing among themselves on the way who was the greatest. Then he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servant of all." Taking a child, he placed it in their midst, and putting his arms around it, he said to them, "Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. I think we can all look back and say, what a day that was, or what a week, or what a month. Just shake our heads. What a week Jesus was having. He takes the time to let his disciples know what's coming, that he'll be betrayed, put to death, and he'll rise again. Pretty important in the life of Jesus, I'd say. But it has no real effect on any of them. The most important message of all time goes in one ear and right out the other. Because they were talking about other things. So what was so important that the disciples announced Jesus' big announcement? They were arguing who was the greatest among themselves. Jesus must have thought, "Are you even listening? Did you hear what I had to say?" As parents, sometimes when we're talking to our teens, we know that happens. But, we've all had a week like that. We get a phone call or text message. Maybe somebody that we know dies. Or we get some kind of bad news. Maybe we've lost a job or face a major health crisis or any number of other issues that we all face from time to time. Maybe it's like a hurricane or flooding that drops in and destroys everything we have. We're in disbelief. We're angry. No, it can't be. But it is. But look around. The rest of the world just goes on. Even though our world is collapsing, the noise all around us just continues, and we think, "God, are you listening? Do you see what's going on?" Our church too is having one of those weeks or months. We hear every day more and more about the life-changing issues that should have been dealt with properly when it happened so many years ago. Stories that are now coming to the surface that are still so very hard to comprehend. How could this have happened? There's other people having those weeks. There are good and holy priests who have lived dedicated lives to this church and to us, foregoing a family to become spiritual leaders to each of us. Priests who are here with us to celebrate our new beginnings and pray with us when we let someone go. They're still here, somehow moving forward in this mess, still preaching the real message. And many of them are devastated and deeply hurt. Some aren't even wearing their collars in public anymore. And that's a real heartbreak. The real heartbreak of our times. Is anyone listening to them? Does anybody see them? Personal low or tragedy, the betrayal of trust can shake to our very foundations, our personal foundations. And it can bring us to our knees with a torrent of questions. Where are we headed and why? Where are you, God, in all of this? Are you even listening? You know the answer is yes. God's listening. Lately I had the opportunity to speak with a couple different priests about the issue. One of them reminded me that when the Holy Spirit is needed, He will appear, as He had just throughout all of time, and to begin the work He needs to do. Our God will respond. And I have to believe that our church will respond on every level, bringing new life and breath, and the breath of God that will need to go on. That too comes from betrayal. A death of sorts that will lead to resurrection, just as we heard in the gospel. What will be important now is God. Not our personal quest to find where we fit into the hierarchy of the kingdom. Folks, it's not about us. We need to worry about what we have done with the relatively short span of human life with that message of Jesus. This is what we live to die for. In this gospel today, Jesus tries to center His disciples, but they didn't get it until after He was killed, and then appeared to them afterwards. They spent the rest of their lives putting this story together and telling as many people as they could, down through the ages, until someone told us. And that's our charge. To focus on the most important message of all time, even during this time of uncertainty, of doubt and confusion. Jesus died so we could live. That's the core message of our faith. And it's been the message since He gave us the gift of the Eucharist and explained what was in the breaking of the bread and in the wine that He shared. And you know, we meet Him again and again right here at Mass. Every time Jesus ate with the tax collectors and talked to lepers, He showed people that God's values just might surprise us. It may seem as if those disciples never got it right. Like us, they see the miracles, but they don't understand the message. They hear the stories, but they don't get the point. Too much other noise. Too many other things going on in their lives, in our lives. Following this King, even when they didn't know exactly what they were doing, was the most important thing they'd ever done. And it is for us as well. It's the only thing that will get us through those weeks, those days, those months, that try everything that we're made of, and the questioning of everything that we thought we knew. I'm counting on Him. At this very moment in our history, this gospel is literally 2,000 years away from us. But you know, it could have been written yesterday.